The Florida Gators have one of the most talented groups in the country on campus this weekend, and we've got insight on who UF made huge strides with. So let's get right to it. From Gators Online, we have Nick De La Torre. Nick, what was the overall vibe in Gainesville like this weekend? And with both spring ball going on and lots of visitors on campus, it had to be pretty crazy.
Yeah, I think this is a great time to have guys on campus. It's not just coming and seeing the facility in the Hawkins Center. It's, hey, I can picture myself. I'm seeing a practice.
Mm-hmm.
What does an actual practice look like? I'm going to have to do this every day in the fall, 15 times in the spring. What does this look like? And I think the recruiting process, they talk a lot about having to be de-recruited once you get there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the coaches aren't going to waste time being super nice to guys at practice. You're going to see the real coach on the field because they're trying to get the most out of their position group. So I think it's a great opportunity to get guys in to see what the day-to-day operations are. And then obviously with the new Hefner football complex, you're taken care of. It's funny walking through there now. You know, I don't know what parents would do before, but now parents are playing pool downstairs or playing ping pong. They have a Pop-A-Shot. So just the new center, I think, is going to be a kind of a game changer. We've seen with the view, with all the new pictures, that view lighting system, video board. So I think just the overall possibilities that they have for trips are better. And it was a star-studded, list of guys that were there, with one exception.
Okay, well, now you've got me intrigued. Tell me who the one exception is here.
Yeah, I think the one exception, but it's David Stone, an offensive lineman. He ended up going to LSU this weekend, and I think LSU will probably be trending. One of the best players in the country, so you don't stop until the national letter of intent is signed. And I guess with the transfer portal, you don't stop ever. The way it goes now. But other than that, there were a talented list of groups, top 10 offensive tackles, top 100 and 300 players in our on-3 rankings. So a good 2 weekends, really, especially when you consider you had Derek Lagway, DJ Lagway on campus last week as well.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about some of the top targets that were there. You mentioned top offensive linemen. I'm guessing you're talking about Ethan Callaway. Tell us a little bit about what you heard about his trip this weekend. Did he like it? Did he enjoy seeing spring ball?
Yeah, I'm still waiting, Allie. I'm still waiting for the first person to give an interview after and be like, man, this place stinks. These coaches are jerks. Everyone has a good visit, especially when you're being catered to. Sure. But I think Callaway did have a good experience. He said Florida's really the only school in the country with 2 offensive line coaches. And they are. And I think that's something that plays into the hands for offensive linemen. It's an interesting take. And I know a lot of Florida fans don't like Billy Napier being the head coach, the quarterback's coach, and the play caller, and he's spread too thin. But I think having 2 offensive line coaches is unique, not just because you get more reps in practice because you split the group in half, but also because you're telling guys, hey, mom, we have 2 coaches for your son, 2 people looking after him, not to mention, the 50, 60, quality control assistants and graduate assistants. So that made a big impact on him. And I think another thing with his recruitment will be academics, strong student. So a number 5 public university, they take him to the Hawkins Center so he can see where his tutoring and stuff is. And certainly if mom's on campus, dad are on campus, you want to make sure to hit those spots.
All right, so let's talk about top 5 safety Xavier Filsaime. Georgia might be the favorite here, but I mean, UF could continue to build momentum. Did you hear how his visit went?
Yeah, so I think Georgia would probably be out, in front right now, but especially for defensive prospects like Xavier, getting to meet Austin Armstrong. You have a brand new defensive coordinator. We talked to Jaden Hill Saturday, and he said, "This is my 3rd defensive coordinator." It's crazy. There's a chance for guys leaving, and when you say, "Hey, he's only 29," if Florida's good in 3 years, maybe he's a head coach somewhere. But I think, being this young in this opportunity, you would expect him to be around for a little while. So getting him around players and, hey, this is who I am. This is what we're going to do. This is how I view you. And this is our defense. And here's how you fit in. So I think Xavier is really impressed with the new facilities. And then also impressed by Austin Armstrong, who is probably almost closer to their age than he is to my age at this point, that's a tough pill for me to swallow. But I think, uh, especially at safety, that's a position Florida needs to get a couple guys. It will depend on, they had 6 defensive backs
Right.
in the class last year.
Right.
And where does an Aaron Gates slide in, and where do, Bryce Thornton's a safety, he'll stay there, but they have some guys who can play both. So depending on where those guys fill in this year, will change how necessary it is for the numbers at safety.
How big of a deal do you think it is that Corey Raymond is now in charge of all the DBs for guys like Filsaime? I mean, Raymond is known for putting guys in the league. That's got to help, you would think.
For sure. That's a great point. I think just the work-life balance with college football now, you're not only recruiting 16, 17, 18-year-olds, you also have to look at the transfer portal and then recruit your own position group. So I think
Right.
Corey Raymond was a guy who might have been, especially after the Cormani McClain recruitment, that's a guy that Corey Raymond is just used to getting. And now it's out of his control with NIL.
Right.
I think Corey Raymond was looking at the NFL and saying, hey, I can just watch film and coach guys. That sounds awesome.
Right.
So I think getting him the entire room is a step up in responsibility, but also played a factor in him staying.
Right.
And then his record speaks for himself. I don't think there's a single player that comes to the University of Florida that doesn't know, especially their defensive back, that doesn't know who Corey Raymond is, that what he's done, helping develop guys and get them to the next level. And anyone that's going to play at the University of Florida, their goal is to play at the next level. And Corey Raymond can give you a long scrolling list of guys that he's helped do that.
All right, let's move on to our next guy, the 11th best offensive tackle in the country, according to industry rankings, Fletcher Westphal. This is, you talked before, and we talked actually I talked in a video previous to this about the impact that 2 offensive line coaches might have on him as well. And you have played it up big for him. Do you think that that's another offensive lineman where that really is becoming a key part of his recruitment?
Yeah, and the big thing there was for Fletcher was seeing it in action, because we kind of had questions about it as well before we saw it last spring. Well, how do you split them up? And then I got out to a practice, I'm like, well, those aren't like all the guards with Stapleton and the tackles with Sale. It's kind of just mixed up. I think he really liked Fletcher really liked how many reps you get, because you're really getting as they're going through individual reps. You've got, let's say you have 20 offensive linemen. Well, now it's just 10 in 2 different groups. So you're getting a lot of work. And for a guy that wants to come in and play right away, I think he sees that as an opportunity where I can get on the practice field, they can develop me quickly, and I can show them, hey, I'm ready to play as a freshman or as a redshirt freshman. He also had the chance to talk to Billy Napier. And obviously when you talk to the head coach and the head coach takes his time out to meet with you, that just shows you the level of seriousness they have in your recruitment.
Hey guys, thank you so much for all the support you've shown me on this channel. We're going to get right back to the video, but first do me a favor and make sure that you're subscribed. Nick broke down the first week of spring practice, and he told us about some hits from the transfer portal, and both those videos will be coming out later this week, and you don't want to miss them, so make sure you smash that subscribe button. I think that it really makes a difference with having 2 coaches as well, because offensive line is one of those positions, really probably the only position in high school that you don't really get developed at. They kind of generally find just the biggest guys they can, stick them on the line. And so it's a crapshoot when you sign offensive linemen. You sign as many as you possibly can, but you got to think working with 2 coaches and double the reps, which is really not something I thought about until you just said that, has got to be a pretty easy way of like weeding out who is going to make an impact down the road and who's not, much quicker.
And it's such a position where, like you said, it's the biggest guy, the strongest guy. I remember going and watching Martez Ivy, and he's a 5-star. And I'm watching, I'm like, well, he weighs 100 pounds more than all the defensive linemen he's going against. I go, and they run like an option, or they ran like a read option offense. They really didn't throw the ball. So you're projecting so much. And I think when you split that practice reps up, a guy like Martez Ivy or someone that comes from like a wing T offense, hey, we're going to be throwing the ball 40 times a game, and you've maybe pass blocked 40 times in 4 years in high school. So now you're going to get the reps that you need to start instilling, good fundamentals and things like that. So I haven't heard a single bad thing from a player, especially offensive lineman, when it comes to Florida's 2 offensive line coaches. And I think Billy Napier's thought process on it makes sense. Until now, Florida has always had a defensive backs coach and a safeties coach. But you've got 5 of those guys, playing at a time, most of the time. Why would you have only one coach. So I think it makes sense, especially with the offensive line where, they wear those 5=1 hats. The offensive line can look really bad if only one person makes a mistake.
Sure.
So getting that continuity and having those guys gel, I think is really important.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so let's move to the other line. 4-star defensive lineman DeAndre Robinson, FSU, Miami, UCF, UF, all of them are into the recruitment of this Orlando prospect. How did his weekend go?
Yeah, it's good to see these Florida State. I had enough of Florida Miami last year. They got into a weird NIL wallet measuring competition. But we'll get into Florida and Florida State. I think right now Florida's trending for him. They talked to him a lot. He's called it his dream school, which, we're a little leery of. There's been a lot of Florida's my dream school, and then you go to Oregon or you go to Texas A&M. But he's another guy. Everyone always talks about the new facilities, and I see some fans talking about, well, we were behind on facilities. Okay, well, you still have to get them there. And, well, that money should be used for NIL. And it's like, well, Florida can't pay the guys, themselves. So I think even if the new facility was just getting you back up, to keeping up with the Joneses per se, everyone that has come out of that facility has spoken really highly of it. And I think there's a lot of care that goes into just the day-to-day lives of the student athletes, and recruits can kind of see that. Billy Napier is big in on this recruitment. He talks to him a lot. And as most recruits will tell you, Billy's going to keep it real. He's told him he's the main priority, but even when they talk to transfer portal guys, which I think is a more business recruitment in the transfer portal, since guys have had 2-3 years of experience, nothing gets promised to any recruits. There's no, you're going to come here and you're going to be the starting defensive tackle. You're going to come here and you're going to, you'll get 10 sacks as a freshman. They don't do that kind of thing. It's, we will give you an opportunity to win a spot. And if you start, that's because you earned it.
That's how it should be. Lastly, let's talk about 6'3", 250-plus pound linebacker Armondo Blount. He is the number 5 player in the country for next year's class. He seems to love UF. Really good to get him on campus as well.
Yeah, this is I think they're a rival now. Dillard was not a rival when I was at St. Thomas, but he's from down in my neck of the woods, and I think he's been coming up obviously a long time until he's going to be official with a commitment or anything. But he's mentioned Billy Napier as being a father figure to him. Brings up family a lot when he talks about Katie Turner, Bree Wade, and the coaches there. I think Mike Peterson, being a younger guy and having played in the NFL, will also be a big factor here. But long way to go, but Florida's trending well right now. And he's a guy that earned his offer, I think, last Friday Night Lights as a rising sophomore. So that just kind of speaks to the kind of athlete that he is, where they see a sophomore and they're like, hey, we would like you to come here. Right.
Yeah, that's pretty early on, but man, 250 right now going into your junior year. That is
eating mom out of house and home there.
For real. That is a big kid. Well, are there any other tidbits or things that you heard that you think might be of interest to Gator fans?
Yeah, I think it's kind of early. I'm interested to see how many guys, what the offer list or what the visitor list will look like for the spring game. Florida's made a point 2 years in a row now to make the spring game on a Thursday. And some fans don't like it. I get it. It's hard to take off work on a Thursday and a Friday. I get that. But if you look at what Florida would be competing against, I think there's more than 30 spring games that Saturday. So the opportunity to get somebody up on Thursday, hey, stay the night Thursday, we'll see the game, talk to you Thursday night. You can tour the facility on Friday and then go on to Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, one of the schools that's having their spring game that Saturday. So for me, I'm interested to see what that list is like, because last year, of the guys that they really targeted and really wanted, they pretty much got everybody that was there for the spring game. So I'm going to be keeping a keen eye on that spring game list and who shows up.
Thanks so much to Nick De La Torre from Gators Online for joining me. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss tomorrow's video where Nick shares insight on spring practice. And if you want to hear me complain about the SEC screwing up Florida's schedule, go ahead and click right here.